Okay, we'll continue the Odyssey. We were in book 4 when we ended last time. Okay, Telemachus and Pisistratus have arrived in Sparta. The double wedding I told you about, the general manner of Menelaus' complacency, Helen's arrival, and so forth. And then the stories begin. Telemachus wants to know if Menelaus and Helen know anything about Dad. He tells one famous story called The Old Man of the Sea. Okay, let's see now. Menelaus had been in Egypt for 7 years and was leaving finally. But they were stranded on an island north of Alexandria, let's say. Pharos, I think, is the island even. But anyway, no wind. The wind did not blow, the wind did not blow. Stranded day after day. And Menelaus was in despair. He walked on the beach and wept and prayed and wept. And then a sea goddess took pity on him and told him what he must do. Her father is called the Old Man of the Sea. I can't think of it. He has a name too, but let's just call him the Old Man of the Sea. And he combines two remarkable talents. One, he knows everything in the past and everything in the future. Two, he's able to change shapes very quickly to anything. So, she says, here's what you must do. You and your men, we will dig a hole in the beach, and you will hide in these holes, because every day at around noontime, Father comes out of the sea with his friends the seals, and they take a long nap. He won't suspect anything. He'll look around, and then he'll take a nap. At that point, you and your men will leap out of these holes in the sand, capture him. He will change shapes many times, even into fire, into a tree, a lion, tiger. Hold on. Soon he will grow weary, and he will stop, and then you can let him go, and he'll tell you what you want to know. This is exactly what happens. A couple of interesting things. Menelaus chooses his 3 or 4 best men, 3 let's say. They dig holes, they hide, and then the goddess covers the hole with seal skins. But the stench, the smell is so overpowering that they complain, and she gives them some ambrosia to sweeten the smell. Interesting. Then capture, change shapes, and then he tells them. First of all, he tells Menelaus about what has just happened to his own brother. His brother is dead, killed on reaching home. Not just happened, it happened 7 years earlier, I'm sorry. Killed upon returning home by Clytemnestra and her lover. Okay, well, this crushes Menelaus, who really was fond of his brother, I think, and vice versa. Excuse me. Then the Old Man in the Sea refers to another hero, friend of Menelaus, obviously Odysseus, whom he discreetly doesn't name, but it's pretty clear, who is staying with and sleeping with a nymph. He's held against his will there, okay. So, at least Telemachus knows that his father was alive 3 years earlier, because that is roughly when Menelaus was leaving Egypt. So he has this knowledge. Then they tell stories, and they tell a couple of interesting stories. First, Helen tells a story. Helen tells how in the last year of the war, Helen, had grown so tired of being with the Trojans, she wanted only to return to her husband and daughter. She missed them. And so one day she saw Odysseus. She recognized him. He had slipped into the city in disguise as a beggar. That will be important here too, in the Odyssey later. As a beggar, and had even whipped himself to acquire some greater authenticity and credibility as a slave. What a guy. What a guy. He was on a spy mission, and he killed a few people. Helen recognized him but did not say anything. Okay. Then Menelaus says, "Oh, that's a very nice story, dear. Here's a different story. We warriors were in the Trojan horse, that is later, the final event. Imagine their fear. It would have taken a very brave man to be fearless at that point, because all that had to happen was the Trojans had to suspect something, and after all, they didn't even have to open the horse. They could have just set fire to the horse. It would have meant death for them, maybe a pretty horrible death, but death in any case. So, there they sat inside the horse, the warriors. Don't know how many. It's hard to say. I would think around 20. Among them Odysseus, of course, and Menelaus. So, Helen had suspected something, and she circled the horse, knocking on the horse, on the side of the horse, and imitating the voices of the wives of the heroes. Why would she do it that way? I don't know. Hoping to elicit some sounds from them, and well, this doesn't sound like a Helen who was eager to return to her husband and daughter in Sparta. Okay, this is Homer, very interesting, because what we have here are, first of all, a couple of Odysseus stories. Oh, Odysseus, one man, better finish that. One man is almost ready to call out to his wife, but Odysseus puts the iron hand on him, saves the lives of all of them. So, okay, a couple of Odysseus stories is true, but the real point is a little marital sparring, because the real point of Helen's story was her own glorification, or at least she was re-apologizing for the years of treachery. I don't know, but Menelaus' story was to countervail Helen's story by saying, yes, dear, that's a nice story you tell, but here's a very different story about your even later, subsequent behavior. Whoa! Homer mastering marital tension. Okay. At this point, they're tired of telling the stories. Everyone is weeping, except poor Pisistratus, Nestor's son, who says, "Can we finish with these sad stories?" Helen then runs and gets a drug, which she had brought back from Egypt, of course, called Nepenthe. Negative, Penthe, suffering. And she even says that a person could have lost a close loved one that day, a child or a spouse or a parent. Take that Nepenthe, no problem. What a drug, what a drug. Anyway, they take that and they smile, apparently, and the story drifts away, because at the end of book 4 we get this happens twice in the Odyssey, a shift of place within a book. At the end of book 4 we shift back to Ithaca. Now remember, we're leaving Telemachus at Sparta. That's where he will be until the end of book 15. Okay, we shift to Sparta. We shift back to Ithaca, and the suitors now, for the first time, notice that Telemachus isn't there. Hey, where's Telemachus? He went to Pylos. Oh, wow! This makes them furious. Not very convincing, I admit. And Antinous takes 20 men. They go out on a ship to wait in the harbor because their plan is to kill Telemachus, to murder Telemachus when he returns. Well, it may not be convincing, but we must remember this. They had planned to murder Telemachus. If anyone has any doubts about what should happen to those suitors later, I think the doubts should be removed by this detail. They absolutely planned to kill Telemachus, and it's only by the good fortune of Athena's intervention that they don't. And when that fails, they plan at the first opportunity to kill him again. Plan again to kill him. Okay, so serious business. End of book 4. End of the Telemachy. Now we have book 5. Books 5 through 8 really, I think, are books 5 through 8 and 18 through 22, I think, are the best in the Odyssey. I like to choose best books. In the Iliad, I think it's no problem. In the Odyssey, it is a problem because I think in general, the quality of the Odyssey books is more even than that of the Iliad. The Iliad has some absurdities, some books that, of which one could say we would miss nothing if they were gone. 19, 20, 21, pretty much nothing. They're embarrassing. The Odyssey has no such books. The quality is much more even, if not necessarily better. I'm going to present an argument to you that I developed just yesterday. My argument will be that the Odyssey is the equal of the Iliad, and I'll tell you why. One minor reason is that, and the major reasons are those later books, but 5 through 8 are wonderful. Very human, excellent. Book 5. Okay. Hermes, we return to Mount Olympus again. And Helen and Athena says, I like to put this in slang, yo boss, meaning Zeus, when are we going to help Odysseus get home? And understandably, irritably, Zeus says to Athena, I thought I told you that you could do anything you want. Didn't we already have this conversation? And yes, they did kind of have that conversation. So it's a little bit embarrassing, but in Homeric terms, I think it's no problem. And Zeus then turns to Hermes and says, Hermes, go to Calypso's island, tell the nymph that she must let the hero go, and let's get things moving here. Okay, Hermes, somewhat morosely, not happily, it's a long trip, he's tired. He said, God, this is Homeric. I better make sure you understand my main point. The Homeric gods that we saw in the Iliad are still evident in the Odyssey. But my thesis is that we are going to see a different side, a much more developed view of religion, of the gods, in the Odyssey. In the Iliad, all the scenes are silly, or none religiously serious. None in the Iliad shows a level of seriousness intellectually or emotionally toward the gods. None shows any kind of developed serious religion. In the Odyssey, this is not the case. In the Odyssey, we find some developed serious religion, but we also find plenty of the old style, humorous, the gods simply as a little as mightier than us, but as silly as we are. More sillier. Okay, so Hermes complains, oh, I don't want to go there. It's so long over the vast gray sea. Okay, he puts on his sandals, his winged sandals, takes up his caduceus, his magic kind of wand. Long trip across the sea. For a god, come on. Okay, he arrives at Calypso's island, which is called Ogygia. I love that name. Ogyggia. I wrote it down. And finally he arrives at the mouth of the cave where Calypso stays. Calypso is a daughter of Atlas, the one who holds up the earth, the world. But Atlas is not serious myth. Unimpressive. Okay, but this is a great moment, and now wonderful things start to happen, though still not serious religiously. Hermes lingers on the outside of Calypso's cave to admire the landscaping, the flowers, the roses, 4 streams. Well, these 4 streams are an interesting detail because they recall that there were the 4 rivers of Eden in Genesis. This is a small paradise. What's best is, well, I love Hermes. Hermes is wonderful. Whenever one sees Hermes, one is seeing something pretty good, lovable. But a god, no, just a lovable character. Now he's showing his aesthetic appreciation too. Wonderful. So he goes in. Calypso is singing at the loom, weaving. Singing. Now, you are young people, but I'm going to give you some adult observations here, and I hope that that they sit well with you. Now, what we're going to see is a very interesting contrast. Calypso is singing. There's only one reason why she could be singing, and that is happy with her love captive, her toy, because Odysseus is kind of her toy. When we first see Odysseus in 5 minutes, he will be weeping bitter tears as he sits on the shore, longing to return home. How do we reconcile these 2 pictures? He has made her happy, but he's not happy. This is interesting, and Homer is easily sophisticated enough to play with ideas like this. Okay, so she notices Hermes, and Hermes, why have you come here across the vast gray ocean? And he says, of course, well, you know very well why I'm here. Why would I be here? Even a human could figure out why I'm here. He doesn't say that. Zeus says you must let him go. It's time. And we get a wonderful scene, Calypso's reaction. You gods, so spiteful. You gods have your human toys, your mistresses, your toys. But if any of us goddesses has a love affair with a mortal, you make sure that it ends quickly. It's a deliciously feminist speech in the mouth of a nymph, immortal of course. Great. Homer is so enlightened, so excellent. And Hermes says, do I take it that you're saying no, you refuse to let him go? You're going to disobey Zeus? Well, I wouldn't go that far. But I won't help him. I won't help Odysseus get away. Okay. Hermes leaves. Calypso goes down to the shore to tell Odysseus the news. There he is, weeping. And at last here in Book 5, we meet the man, the object of the Odyssey, weeping bitter tears, longing for his home. It turns out that Calypso had even offered him immortality, and he had refused. He longed for home. even with terms of under the weight of mortality. That's a remarkable detail. I don't take it too seriously, but it is an interesting detail. So, and she tells him, okay, I'm going to let you go. His first reaction, his first words, mind you, in the Odyssey, I don't trust you. It can't be. It's impossible. She smiles, softened, mollified, because she says, that's one of the things I love most about you. And this means she knows him well, and she does love him, probably. They've been together 7 years. My God. So she says, okay, no, I'll tell you, I promise, I am telling you the truth. But the first trait that we see in him then is this always active mind, always thinking, always looking for advantages, suspecting treachery or some kind of duplicity. It's not such a major trait of his, but the active mind, the very active mind, definitely is. And again, we're collecting the traits of this man because that's what the Odyssey is about, and our list will be long. Okay, and she says, okay, and I'll even show you where the best trees are. I'll give you some tools, and I'll give you provisions for your long, very long voyage across the open sea. And she does this. So for the next 3 days, he makes a raft, and he makes it carefully, and Homer appreciates how carefully he makes it. Odysseus is an artist, and I think that's one of the traits. An artist in every sense of the word, really, because in the Great Wanderings, the most famous, not the best, part of the Odyssey, he is going to tell a hypnotizing story, a great story, and tell it so well, he's an artist. And the people where he is at that point, who have the benefit of his artistry, appreciate it, and they know him. He is a master storyteller, and he appreciates storytelling as he does in Book 8. I want to emphasize this now because I won't get a chance to again. And we recall in Book 2 of the Iliad how he is a spellbinding, mesmerizing public speaker. Okay. He takes great care with this raft, and he does it well, Homer says. Later also, I'll tell you, because I won't remember later, in Book 20, he boasts to Eurymachus, one of the suitors, that he will compete with any man as a plowman at the plow. He's such a powerful man, but he is no soft aristocrat, nor is he a snobbish aristocrat who scorns manual labor. He will get out there and plow fields for days and days, and he's proud of that. I admit that's not artist. That's just that's more endurance, really, and physical strength and endurance, which are two major traits of his. Endurance especially. Okay, back to this then. He makes the raft in 3 days. She gives him provisions, and off he goes on this long sea voyage across the long, dreary sea that Hermes had complained about. In fact, really, if you think about it, the reason why we see Hermes complain is to remind us of what a journey awaits Odysseus. That's the point there, because Homer knows that no god, how could a god complain? How could a god even look like Hermes? I mean, the whole thing is so anthropomorphic and silly, and Homer knows it's silly. This aspect of religion is silly, then and now. Our human vanity, our insistence that a god resemble us, is not just silly, it's vanity. In fact, I think it's reprehensible. I think it's peccant, sinful. It's part of our desire to reduce God to us, not raise ourselves. Not that that's possible, at least raise our thinking to something like a dignified level, but pull God down to us. It's not just our silliness and vanity, it's our sinfulness. Sorry, then and now. Okay, so off he goes. 17 days. For 17 days he is on that raft. Does he sleep? He must. He has provisions. On the 18th day, Poseidon, remember he was with the Ethiopians back there at the beginning of Book 1? Poseidon has left the Ethiopians to return to Olympus. And, comical, he sees Odysseus bouncing along the sea. And he thinks, damn! Zeus must have changed his mind, relented, and decided that he could return home. Well, at least I will make his journey very unpleasant. Hurricane. Waves as tall as Tegu Tower. Odysseus cowering on his raft. Oh my God, here waves. Huge wave comes down, hits his raft. Splat, his raft is splintered, and he goes way down, and he just barely gets to bottom and gets back up to air. Breathe, grabs a part of the raft, a log, let's say, and tries to get out. And Poseidon is satisfied that he has spoiled that trip. The sea becomes calm again, and poor Odysseus is riding a log. For 2 more days, for 2.5 days, he rides the sea. Now, obviously, during this time, no food, no water, exhausted. He hears water hitting a shore, and he rides a wave up so that he can see in the distance, and he can see what is apparently an island. It's never confirmed, but this place is important. Okay, so then he paddles, supposedly, toward that island. Just to tell you, that island is Scheria, Scheria, sometimes called Phaeacia, Phaiakia, because the people there are the Phaeacians. Difficult name. I'll stick with Scheria. Okay, so at a certain point then he leaves his log and strikes out, must be exhausted, toward the shore. He lands on the shore, but he lands where the crags and reefs are very sharp and treacherous, and it's a cliff. A wave hits him from behind, pulls him out away from the sea. He loses a little skin on his hand there even, and he's swept back out to the sea. This time, though, maybe he doesn't have his log anymore. I don't remember that. Interesting detail. Well, things are going badly indeed. But along comes a sea nymph, formerly Ino, daughter of Cadmus, my God, and now a sea nymph, immortal. And she offers to help him. She will give him what amounts to a life jacket, her girdle. Nothing about modesty is said as she takes it off and gives it to him. But she says, when you get ashore, take this off, and without turning around, throw it behind you, apparently out of modesty. But there was no great modesty when she took it off in the first place, but we're not told she turns her back prudishly or something. But anyway, he's got a life jacket, and he's probably going to be safe, but he's got to swim some more along the coast of the island to get to a place which is peaceful, where he can land. He comes to that place where a river comes out peacefully, the beach is there, it's a wonderful place. But before he strikes out for shore, he prays to the river god. And this is the beginning of this theme that I'm going to build as high as I can, and which I think is, I don't know if it's been discovered, I think it's been discovered before, I wonder if it's been developed before. The religious dimension, the serious religious dimension of the Odyssey. because Odysseus is, perhaps above all, a man of prayer, a religious man. He is a seriously religious man. And you'll see. So he prays to the river god, please grant me a peaceful landing, sets out for the beach, lands on the beach. Now remember, 3 days, 17 days, exhausted, but he's thinking. And he thinks, first of all, I've got to get this jacket off and throw it to the kind goddess. Second, if I lie on the beach in my state of exhaustion, either a chill will take me during the night, because it's late afternoon, and I'll die, or animals will get me. I've got to get to a safer place. Right there is a olive, Athena, olive bush, big, thick. He is able to crawl in there, and in there are some leaves, and he burrows a kind of hole, covers himself with leaves. There he will be relatively safe from animals, and he will be warm. And he falls asleep. Well, this is Athena at work, probably. Olive, though Homer doesn't say so there. And we leave at the end of Book 5, he's safe, exhausted, sleeping. Book 6, wonderful, even more wonderful. Called Nausicaa. Headings, I said. 4, Sparta, I guess. 5, Odysseus leaves Ogygia. 6, Nausicaa. Nausicaa, Nausikaa, is a princess of Scheria. Her father is the king, Alcinous, Alkinous. Her mother, more important, Arete, Arete. Arete kind of means excellence, virtue, excellence. Just the kind of person whom basically Odysseus is. Sharp. This means sharp and wise. Odysseus is not always sharp and wise, as you will see. And maybe that will have to be my main point. Or that will coincide with my main point. Okay. So, beginning of Book 6. Athena comes to Nausicaa in a dream as an old woman and says, "Bad girl, you are almost marriageable now. Your older brothers are marriageable. The palace is full of dirty linen. Ask your father for a wagon and picnic provisions. Take some women with you and go out to the river and wash these dirty clothes." She wakes up, a young girl, charming, one of the most charming 16-year-olds in literature, even though her appearance is brief. Runs to find Daddy, runs straight into him. May I have... okay. He, of course, grants her anything. Gets the wagon, gets the provisions for the picnic, has her friends, they're chattering excitedly and giggling and all that. It's a great scene. By the way, just to focus for a moment, I could do this again and again. Notice how unthinkable such a character, how unthinkable such a scene would be in the Iliad. Inconceivable. There is no lightheartedness. There are no common human touches. There are no moments of laughter except the weighty scenes of Book 23, which has its laughter, but even Book 23 has heavy points. The lightheartedness, the common human touch, the common human beings of the Odyssey are a different universe, and I think they claim respect. They claim a lot of respect for us, not quite like the Iliad, but the point I'm going to make is going to make the Odyssey the equal of the Iliad, as I say again. Okay. So, wagon, mule, to the river. Take the clothes off, wash them in the river, set them out along the beach to dry. Picnic. Play ball. Throw the ball. Nausicaa, her friends. and one of the friends throws the ball over Nausicaa's head to a place pretty near our bush, pretty near the sleeping hero. Okay, they all scream just because the ball went far, no reason. Good human touch. The screaming wakes up Odysseus, and he thinks, "Oh my God, where am I? Are these monsters? Are these people going to kill me and eat me? Where am I? Well, I'm exhausted and starving, so I better come out of there." And so he appears, naked, of course. He has broken off a branch, though, of the plant there to cover his nakedness, and he appears. The girls see him and scream. Probably he looks like a sea monster, covered with salt, and his hair just ridiculous, but he's still an impressive guy. The only one who doesn't run is Nausicaa. She stands. Athena... Ah, boy, Athena at work. And so we get this fascinating exchange here between the old, 45 years old, the aging hero, and the girl. Amazing. Okay, he speaks, and his speech and her speech deserve close analysis. I haven't done that often enough. But he says, "Are you a goddess or what?" Good beginning for the 16-year-old girl. Very flattering, of course. I haven't seen anything as beautiful as you since once when I took a ship to Delos. Delos, a serious place in the middle of the South Aegean, sacred to Apollo and Artemis, a holy island. Not just everybody went to Delos. And he is saying that he took a ship, his ship, full of men, to Delos on some mission. What he's saying, of course, is that he's a man of some wealth and substance, power. He's not just he's like a king. And there at an altar, next to the altar, there was a young palm tree, date palm tree. I haven't seen anything that beautiful since I saw that. You are the most beautiful thing I have seen. Whoa, what a man. What he's saying by this, I think, is that he's a man of some aesthetic sensibility, that he appreciates beauty. He's an educated man. He's eloquent. What a guy. And she is no fool. She understands. So she says, "No, I'm not a goddess. But my father is the king here in these parts, and we..." Oh, and he also, most important, not most important, just practically. Oh, I'm skipping two things. First of all, before he even spoke, he said, now, to himself, of course, "Shall I approach her in the suppliant position?" which I think I've enacted to you before, certainly in Book 1 of the Iliad, where a person becomes the suppliant of the other person, putting himself entirely at the mercy of that person, asking for help and protection. Do I approach her and touch her, or do I keep my distance and simply verbally, from a distance, appeal as a suppliant? He decides at a distance. Then he speaks. Secondly, of course, he says, "I'm asking for conveyance, transportation, if you can give it to me, to my home. I've been away for so long." And he even slips in a little observation about there's nothing better. I forgot this recently. There's nothing better for a man and woman in this life, he says, than to be married to a woman whom one understands, who understands one, and they approach a basically hostile world as a team. Very interesting Homeric observation. That is a brief celebration of conjugality, marital alliance in this world. It's a remarkable thing that Homer makes Odysseus say, and pretty clearly Odysseus believes it too, despite his years of coerced infidelity, apparently, with Calypso. Okay, we have a lot to say there. Okay, she then says, no, I'm not a goddess, but my father is the power here, and yes, we have ships, and yes, I think we can offer you transportation home. Of course, imagine how happy he is. I'm marriageable, though, and I don't want people to see me, the common people, to see me with a handsome stranger, because they'll say, oh, sure, she isn't going to marry a local boy, she'll marry the handsome foreigner who just comes by. And basically she flatters him in such a way, she even says at a certain point that such a man as you I wouldn't mind marrying. Wow. So the point is, as we near town, I'm going to have to let you out, and you'll have to walk, because I can't take you in. But I'll give you instructions to find the palace, and when you find the palace, go to my mother. She's the power. Wow, what's Homer doing here? I mean, so much high praise for women. Arete is much more intelligent than her somewhat drunken but kind-hearted husband. And we often find this. Helen, then Menelaus. Clytemnestra, then Agamemnon. We find this again and again in the literature. Interesting. But Homer especially, maybe. Okay, so, no problem. They offer to bathe him, but he is embarrassed about the condition of his body, so he bathes himself. They give him clothes, nice clothes that they've just washed, and Athena puts that glow on him, and wow. And the women all say, wow, what a guy. Then they eat. He has some food for the first time in days, and then they gather the clothes up, get into the wagon, and head toward town. When they are fairly near town, they let him out, and they continue on alone, and leave him alone. End of Book 6, he enters a grove sacred to Athena. Wow. And in that grove, he prays, again, to Athena. Of course, he doesn't know that Athena has been behind a lot of these things that have happened already, that Athena has already changed toward him. But he prays to Athena. Okay. Book 7. It's the weakest book in the Odyssey, maybe, but it even is pretty good. He enters town. It's nightfall. A girl approaches him, and he asks directions to the palace. She's Athena, of course. She guides him there, covers him with a mist. Nobody sees him. He enters the palace. It's nighttime. Alcinous and the elders and the council are meeting, having a nighttime drink before they go to bed. Arete's mom is there too. Suddenly, this hero enters the room, goes straight to Arete, as told, and assumes the suppliant position. Everybody is speechless. What? What's going on here? Silence. And no one breaks the silence until some older man of experience says, this is very bad. Please offer him a chair, offer him food, and blah, blah, blah. So, and he gives his speech and asks for conveyance home. Arete, sharp, notices the clothes that he's wearing. She made them. And she knows it. She sees through everything. Odysseus has to tell a kind of modest lie about how, yes, he met daughter and she had given him clothes. But he doesn't tell the whole truth, not that anything bad happened. Okay. And so he sits down, they bring him more food and wine, offer him a bed, and sure they have great ships. The Scareans, let's say, have great ships. Their ships are magic. They don't need oarsmen. They tell the ship where to go, and the ship goes there, across the sea. The gods love the Scareans, especially Poseidon. Oh God, I forgot that too. Especially Poseidon loves the Scareans. Special relationship. Okay. End of book 7. Book 8, I love. Okay. Early morning, next morning, assembly, down by the sea even, an assembly, and Alcinous, the king, the kindly, somewhat muddle-headed king, who should always be seen with a drink in his hand, probably even at 8 o'clock in the morning, but he's a good man. Okay, calls an assembly. The people flock to see this stranger. But stranger is in no mood to be very social. All he wants is to get on that ship and get home. And so he's kind of morose and gloomy, to use that word again. And so Alcinous says, I have an idea. We have a lot of money, a lot of things. Let's all give gifts, the main wealthy families. Let's bring gifts for our guest. Bear in mind they have no idea what his name is, who he is. And he must seem very strange to them. Impressive but strange. And he keeps a mantle covering his body so they can't get a real look at this massive, impressive human specimen. They bring the gifts, and that's nice. That makes Odysseus happy. And then I guess they think they won't sail until evening for some reason. And so they decide to entertain their guest with athletic events. And they perform the normal events that we saw in Book 23 of the Iliad, foot race, boxing, wrestling, among other things, and discus. Okay. And the people there are very proud of their athletes. And one athlete, one of the discus throwers, comes over to Odysseus, who's kind of sitting there on the ground pretty clearly, sort of watching, perfunctorily watching. And the young man says, you look like you may have been an athlete in your time. Come, grab a discus and throw and play with us. It's a kindly, friendly invitation. Odysseus says, thanks, friend, but I'm in terrible condition. Imagine the 20 days and then the sleeping, blah, 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 no training. And I'm in terrible condition and I'm not at all in the mood. I just want to get home. And the young man says, yeah, you don't really look like an athlete anyway. You look like a guy who travels around the sea, keeping records of profits and loss. In other words, you look like a merchant. In other words, he's heaping aristocratic scorn on him. He's insulting him because that's insulting behavior for an aristocrat. Odysseus says, friend, you've spoken intemperately. When I was in Troy, I was the best athlete. I was very good at discus, the fastest runner maybe except Achilles, he says, and the best archer except Heracles or Philoctetes. And with this, he stands up, doesn't even remove the mantle, picks up the heaviest discus, and without even twirling as a discus thrower twirls, just throws it out there, and it goes far beyond the best thrower's effort before. The crowd is amazed, but maybe this wasn't very wise, because here he is surrounded by people whom he doesn't know, who don't know him, and maybe he should not be too arrogant here. But Athena is out there as a little girl and exclaims, sir, that was a wonderful throw, that was a great throw. And it kind of breaks his tension a little bit. And then he says, when I was in Troy, these big hints. I used to, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. And so he sits down, and Alcinous, it's kind of a tense moment. And if we allow some silence there, then it is tense. Then Alcinous says, friend, we're not great athletes. It's a wonderful admission for him, because Odysseus has just shown them in a moment that no, they are not great athletes. We're not very good at athletics at all. We're good at two things: dancing along with partying, and sailing on the sea. We're the masters of that. Let's go and have a feast and have a good time together. Breaking the tension. It's a great, great moment. So they go and have a feast, and the singer sings a song to them while they're starting the feast, and he sings about events that happened in Troy, because I think I've told you already, if I haven't now, that the Odyssey is full of stories, episodes kind of, narratives about Troy. But none of these narratives appears anywhere else in Greek literature, only here. It's a remarkable addition to the Trojan, our knowledge of Troy. None of them particularly great, but good. And the singer sings a song about a quarrel between Odysseus and Achilles. Wow! We've never heard or thought such a thing was possible. Odysseus, the character, as he hears these, covers his head and sobs, recalling the old times at Troy. After all, that's 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier for him. He's been gone 20 years, remember. We're in the 20th year, roughly, of his absence now. Sobs. Alcinous, sitting next to him, notices this and says to the singer, "Singer, maybe let's sing a happier song. Let's start the feast now, and happier music." So the mood becomes very festive, and the greatest moment, I think, there's several great moments, but one of them is the athlete, the discus thrower, comes to Odysseus with a gift, an ivory hilt to a sword, I think, or a scabbard maybe, and he apologizes. He said, the words that the Greeks use are pretty wonderful. He says, if I spoke immodestly or offensively, may the storm winds carry those words away. I'm sorry. Gives the gift. Odysseus graciously accepts the gift. All is well. And he even says, you're young, it's okay. You should measure your words in the future. But even Odysseus is guilty of lapses of this, so that's okay. It's a very nice moment of Greek civilization. Okay, feasting, all that, happy music, laughter. Odysseus is given the best cuts of meat, and the singer begins a new song, happier song. But Odysseus must be after. Anyway, this story is famous, and this is Iliadic style. This is Homeric old style of religion, the kind that I think is virtually satire or amusement, just entertainment. Okay, we're on Mount Olympus. Hephaestus is married in the Odyssey to Aphrodite. You might remember in Book 18 of the Iliad, Hephaestus is married to Charis, my daughter's name, one of the three Graces. Lots of differences between the two books. Another is, I'll talk about them. Okay, so, but Aphrodite is having a love affair, as often in myth, with Ares. Ares, muscular, a handsome, very handsome, muscular guy. And Hephaestus, after all, very not handsome, limp and lame, probably short, physically short, probably shorter than Aphrodite. Perfect. Okay, so Hephaestus, dear, I'm going to Lemnos, have to go to Lemnos, see you in a couple of days. Goes. Ares is at the back door right away. Come on, dear, let's have some fun. And they go to bed. Well, this has been going on. And no one tells Hephaestus. But finally Helios, the sun god, it's always Helios because he sees everything, says, look, Hephaestus, your wife and Ares are messing around, and it's time that you knew it. Oh, he's angry, hurt, and all that. So when he returns, he acts like nothing has happened. But he goes to work, and he's the man with metal. And he makes a net, a metallic net, so fine that a casual glance can't even see it. He arranges it on top of his bed. Dear, going back to Lemnos, see you in a couple of days. Feigns leaving. He goes. Sure enough, Ares there at the back door. Sure enough, they go to bed. But Hephaestus slips back, pulls the string, down comes that heavy net on the lovers, caught in a very embarrassing situation. And then he calls, gods, goddesses, come and see what this shameless wife of mine does. Now there's a money angle behind this, I should explain. Uh-oh. It's blinking. 5 minutes, okay. There's a money angle behind this because, of course, when people got married, money was exchanged. And when the violations of this kind occurred, money would have to exchange back. So, come and see. The gods come, the goddesses, out of modesty, remain home. A favorite moment of mine, which I hope you appreciate, Hermes and Apollo stand next to the bed, laughing. It's a moment of laughter. It's a funny, amusing story for the Greeks. And Apollo says to Hermes, Hermes, what would you think about being under that net? And Hermes, these two gods embody, I guess you could say, human beauty, physical beauty for the Greeks. Aphrodite, beautiful, but the young male athletic body at his prime, 18, 20, 22, I don't know, and these guys are young. Whatever is beautiful, they are it. And Hermes smiles and says, put 3 times as many nets on there, but put me under that net with the lovely Aphrodite. It's a delicious moment of male humor, admittedly male humor. The charm of Hermes, charm of Apollo too, but especially Hermes, irresistible in my opinion. Okay, laughter, everybody's happy. Odysseus too. And now comes this other scene that's important to me. Odysseus calls a servant and asks the servant to take this piece of meat to the singer, the poet. And he says, you singers are very important. Anyone who wants to be remembered after his death or to be famous during his life must have the support of the singer. Well, this is Odysseus' high praise for the singer, but he appreciates such things, and he's an artist himself, and he values storytelling and the art of storytelling. And so, at the end of Book 8, we get this great moment. Alcinous, in this general congeniality, festivity, says, friend, it's time you told us. Who are you? Tell us your name, please. We're all good friends now. End of Book 8. It's a great, great moment. Dramatic silence. The end of Book 8. So Book 9 there's a perfect time to break now. Book 9 will begin with his announcement of who he is, and the famous Great Wanderings, books 9 through 12. It's a perfect moment for a break.